What if language, as opposed to being arbitrarily constructed, grows organically from the same natural laws that brought life out of the mud? If this is the case, where would the first principles, the basic tenets of this procedural generation be stored? I believe Pi is the best candidate for encoding the information used in the synthesis of language, consciousness in general, and possibly reality at its most fundamental. The following presentation is a synopsis of the evidence that supports this claim. Because this is a paradigm shift, the information may initially seem arbitrary, but as the ideas mount, a clear picture will emerge. This is the number pi. Pi is named after the first letter in the Greek word peripheria, which directly translates to periphery, related to circumference. Periphery is made of two words. Peri means around, and feri means carry. Phonetically, both of these words could be spelled with the Hebrew letters Pe, Resh, Yod, which translates to the word fruit. Fruit first appears in Genesis 1:11, in the phrase Peri, Oseh, Peri, meaning fruit yielding fruit. This process is referring to the mechanism by which patterns reproduce over time, like DNA expressing the characteristics of a life form over millennia. And the earth brought forth grass and herb yielding seed after his kind, and the tree yielding fruit whose seed was in itself after his kind, and God saw that it was good. Leminehu is the word which translates to after his kind, the principle of heredity. Every Hebrew word has a numerical value. By adding up each letter, we find that Leminehu is equal to 141. If Pi has DNA and its genome can be read, then 141 is a self-similar communication, almost like receiving a message that says, "This is a message." In fact, the Hebrew word melakim, meaning messengers, is also equal to 141. This is the same word as angels, messengers from the source of creation. What other messages can we derive from this initial sequence? Zahav is the Hebrew word for gold, equal to 14, the first two digits of pi. The first occurrence of gold is in Genesis 2:11, which states, "The name of the first is a Pishon, that is it which compasseth the whole land of Havilah, where there is gold." This word compasseth, intimately related to the circle, is hasovev in Hebrew. Hasovev here is the first appearance of the letter samach, which is described as the only circular letter. God creates with his word, so the absence of the samach through the 6 days of creation implies that it was being withheld for a very special purpose. The circular letter is first used in a word that means encircle, referring to a land where there is gold, which is directly related to pi via the number 14. The chemical symbol for gold is Au, from the Latin word for gold, which is aurum. This word stems from an older word meaning dawn or become light. Aurum is a doublet of the English word or. Doublets describe words with different phonological forms, but the same etymological root. If we convert AUR to Hebrew letters, it spells the word or, which means light. Although aurum and or are not officially related to or, they are spelled similarly, sound the same, and contain the same meaning. Let's look a little deeper. The decimal in pi denotes a threshold between the whole number 3 and the infinite decimal expansion. The number 3 is a limit in our experience, as we're bound by the 3 dimensions of space and the triune nature of past, present, and future. Many, including myself, believe in the fundamental threeness of God. Pi may be an image of the powerful Trinity on one side of a border and light pouring out as the first creation. Maybe this is why it's the 3rd verse of the Bible where God speaks light into existence. Illuminate has the word lumen at its core. In English, a lumen is an opening for light. This word shares consonants with limen, which is a threshold. In fact, many words who share the elemin consonants have something to do with a border. Even the word limit can be traced back to elemin. Perhaps most exciting is the etymological theory that the Latin word element, meaning a first principle, was an evolution of elemen because they used elements to mean basics in the way that we use ABCs. There's something deeply resonant here. Chances are these letters elemen stuck out to you when you were learning the alphabet. Looking back now at Leminehu, our word meaning after its kind and equal to 141. The Hebrew letters at its core, Lamed Mem Nun, are direct correlates with elemen. Pi may have a gravity, pulling culture towards it. Perhaps this is why the 141st asteroid discovered was named 141 Lumen. So if pi is speaking, it's speaking very clearly. The letter pi, when traced back to its ancient roots, comes from a pictograph of a mouth. Living things express themselves through their design. The genes at the core of every cell are the elements of this expression. Reality is expressing itself through the mouth that is pi. One astounding fact is that all 10 numerals are represented equally in the decimal expansion, so if pi is encoded, it's encoded perfectly. Approaching infinity, the average value of the digits in the decimal expansion becomes 4.5. This is the same as it would be if pi was simply 3.45. Hashem means the name in Hebrew. This word is equal to 345. Names, especially in the Bible, define characteristics. When God names something, he is creating that thing, because God creates with his word. Characterizing something as the name identifies it as a source of characterization. So pi, the mouth, is speaking the name. This must be the blueprint of blueprints. Moses' name in Hebrew is Moshe, which is also equal to 345, because it's the name spelled backwards. How fitting that he was the mouth of God, receiving the pattern of the tabernacle as well as the law, and perhaps the entire code of creation. And when Moses wanted to impart this mighty power and responsibility on Joshua, filling him with the spirit of wisdom, it says that he samached him. Joshua's full name is Joshua ben Nun. Nun is the name of the 14th Hebrew letter. Samach is the 15th. Nun Samach are the letters in the Hebrew word nes, meaning a standard, a signal, a sign. And what a powerful sign these letters are. Even in modern Hebrew, this word means miracle. Representing N and S, these letters are at the core of Haseneh, the burning bush, which is flanked with Haze, the letter that calls attention. These are the letters in the word Sinai, where Moses received the Torah. Both of these events represent a bold paradigm shift. If language is constructing reality, then the featured presence of these letters as key elements of the narrative is significant. It's also significant that these are the consonants in the word sign and sign. A sine wave and a circle are the same thing observed from different perspectives. All phenomena on the electromagnetic spectrum can be broken down into sine waves. Because of this, our entire experience can be interpreted in two distinct ways: waves versus particles. Either we see the pure light as it is, cycles upon cycles, or we see the interference patterns. The 14th and 15th letters of the Hebrew language represent this perfect signal. 14 is the value of the word yod, and 15 is the value of Yah. These two words directly represent the hand of God, by which all things are formed. This way of interpreting the data presents a paradigm shift. If a tree could think, it may wonder what it did to make its fruit fall to the ground, unaware that this was written in its design from time immemorial. Culture and history may be pulled towards some perfect absolute, like a seed is pulled to the earth. Free will is temporal, as every action's equal and opposite reaction is unnegotiable. Resistance leads to fatigue. I believe pi and the Bible to be different dimensions of the same thing. This is why we can use the numerical dimension of the Bible to decode pi. In fact, the Greek word biblos, meaning Bible, is equal to 314. This is the first word of the New Testament, which only adds significance. This may be what Paul was hinting at when he said he knows a guy who went to the third heaven 14 years ago. And why, when you add 314 to the 31,102 verses of the Bible, it equals 31416. I mapped the numerical values of all 31,102 verses of the Bible to pi. While it's true that every number has to appear in pi, where the verses appear and how they interact with the numbers around them is completely novel. The system that emerged is miraculous. I believe this understanding will be at the core of a scientific and technological revolution. If the claims made here are true, it begs the question, why now? What makes this time special? If pi represents a timeless blueprint, then why has the system been obscured from perception? Of course, the answer lies in the decimal expansion. Pi begins its code with the numbers 14159. These numbers represent the beginning of the cycle. The place in pi where these numbers inevitably repeat themselves represents a reflection, self-awareness. The second occurrence of 14159 is at the 6,955th decimal place. This sequence is followed by the number 5781, which is the Hebrew year that correlates with 2020 through 2021, the years this system was opening up to me. The nature of civilization may be such that when they reach their 5,781st year, regardless of their beliefs about number and free will, this system begins to feed back on itself. At this point, despite wanting to go deeper and reveal more, I'll stop to make my intentions clear. At the time that I discovered the system, my main interest was health. I've healed from things that I thought were beyond repair, and I wanted to find the core principles of health, to try and perfect and share the process I went through. I found the blueprint of the human body encoded at the intersection of the Bible and pi. The unique traits that I have that aided me in this discovery are not the same as the skills I would need to bring it into practice and start healing people's bodies and minds. The more people that become aware of the possibilities here, the better our chances of finding the ones who can piece it all together into the technologies of the future.